Hey, visionaries. It's Shalita, the nonprofit Easter O'Neill. Happy Tuesday. We're back for another hashtag nonprofit no filter live discussion. And today, listen, we're going to be talking about how do you partner with policymakers in order to support and strengthen families. And I thought that was really important for us to uplift because so many of us, I don't care what you're doing in the community, I don't care, what issue you're addressing, it will all impact families, children and families and the community. So a lot of times we try to do this work in silos, or you may not know who to connect to or how to connect with them, but you cannot leave your elected officials out. And for so many different reasons, right? As we see things that are playing out on the national stage and how important it is on November 3rd that you get out and vote, right? But I thought it was important to also have someone come on and talk to you about, well, how do you do that? Because, I've had clients who have said, it's hard to get a hold of elected officials, or I call their office and, I get the runaround or whatever. And I have in the past with my nonprofits, I have been able to partner with elected officials in different capacities, and it has really helped to move the work forward, especially since the issues in the causes that I have been working towards in the community. When you look at, well, how does that line up with your elected officials? We're really supposed to be working together. So I have a special guest today. Her name is Judge Cathy Serrette, and she's with the Prince George's County Circuit Court Family Division. She's going to come on around 12:30. So before she comes on, I wanted to just have an open conversation, check in with you guys, see where you're at. I see you looking. Okay, come on in, give you an opportunity to come on in. It's lunchtime, so you might have to, wash down the salad or the sandwich or something. And then come on and say something. Okay. So S. Alexander, good morning from ATL. Hey. Well, you know what? It's afternoon now, right? I don't even know what day it is half the time. I don't know. But good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. Y'all come on in here. Come on in. I'm gonna have y'all know I like my little music. Now, last time I say I do not own the rights to this music. Because they was like, oh, copyright. Listen, y'all better stop. Come on in. How you doing? Serenity, you are here. You are here. You do the dance. You dancing. Do the dance. Okay. Come on in. We're going to be talking about, our elected officials and, in particular, how do we engage policymakers around our work? We're going to talk about it. Y'all come on in. Let me drink you can go my caffeine, y'all. I'm ready for you, okay? Ooh, this kind of sweet today. I don't know about that. Come on in, y'all. Who's here? Check in. Where you at? What you doing? Where you at? I know y'all know I'm in Maryland. I looked outside. I went outside for a few minutes, and it's actually really nice. I like this time of year when we're having a transition. Into fall. It's not hot. It's not cold. It's just right. Who's watching? Who's looking? Come on in. Come on in. And I'll share a couple of thoughts of my own and things that I have done in the past, okay, to engage our policymakers, our elected officials. And then we have our special guest that's going to be joining us, Judge Cathy Serrette, at 12:30. Peekaboo! It just says Facebook user. I'm going to show you what I see. Peekaboo! I see you. I see you too. I don't see your name. You got to give StreamYard the permission to use your name. Up. Okay, can't wait till you have a series to talk about bond money opportunities for nonprofits. Oh, okay, we can talk about that. I'll get y'all a special guest or somebody who can speak in deep detail about that. You said you thought that the nonprofit couldn't work with politicians. That's not true. Not true. Now, there's a difference when you talk about lobbying. So, and even with that, you can I think it's less than 10% of your time and your resources being able to be used on lobbying, right? So if you want to be careful about not saying you're a lobbying organization, because then I guess that can be conflicts, but you can lobby up to 10% of your time. And then also it's about messaging. Are you lobbying or are you educating? Right. And there's some things that you have to be careful about when you invite legislators or elected officials to your events, on whether or not you have them pay for a ticket or what, those are smaller things like that, but absolutely not. I know many nonprofit organizations, and my organizations have been, have also participated in getting to know our elected officials, educating our elected officials, and letting them know what issues are important to us and to what our nonprofit is working towards. That's not against your 501c3 status, or will not jeopardize your 501c3 status. So yeah, but if that's all you're doing as a nonprofit and you didn't file to be that type of nonprofit, then there's an issue and you could jeopardize your 501c3 status. Yes, so we need to know. Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, hold up, let me see. Hold up. Anybody else having issues with hearing me? You said, it is I, the little fairy, jamming to the music. Yes. Let's talk about lobbying. Okay. Absolutely. Serenity, can you hear? Okay, you can hear. Okay, I was about to say, because sometimes it's me and I don't know. What'd you say? Patricia, hey, Patricia! You say, you've been watching me all morning. I almost missed this live because I was looking at, you know what you're not about to do is make me blush, because I do got some blush on, but you're about to make me blush. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Who else is on here? Come on in. Come on in. Yeah. So, somebody, so you may not have heard what I said then about the lobbying piece. Did you hear anything that I said? Because you said you couldn't hear. Let me know. Serenity. It's all right. I don't put myself out here. Look, I'm out here. Y'all. Come on hither too. Okay. But yeah, Serenity, I hope you heard me when I said about the lobbying piece, right? So if it's something that's all you're doing as a nonprofit, and you have the 501c3 status, the public status, like there's an issue, right? There's a certain amount of your time and resources that you are allowed to use for quote unquote lobbying. And typically it's no more than 10%, right? You got to be careful about that. Be very careful about that. But what I'm talking about is not necessarily lobbying. It's educating. It's advocacy. It's raising awareness about certain issues. And you should absolutely be engaging your elected officials around that, especially those who say that, they care about the population that you're working with, or that have used it as a platform to get elected. So yeah. And I'll give you some concrete ways as well. And always, y'all know, disclaimer, I'm not a nonprofit attorney. I do not play one on TV. I'm not acting like I'm a nonprofit attorney. You should seek out, and there are pro bono nonprofit attorneys who, either that will determine to do that, that will give their services or donate their services on an individual level, or there are nonprofit organizations that have attorneys that do that. So wherever you are, whatever state you're in, do some research and see who, I know in Maryland, there's an organization, it's a couple of different organizations, but I know Maryland Legal Aid is one. I know Community Law Center is another. So they actually, you don't have to pay anything for certain services or some pro bono legal services. So find out who that is in your state, and then you can reach out and ask them specific things around what's the limit, what does it look like, and how is the language for your state. But what I'm telling you, I know to be true because I've seen national organizations do it. I have done it as well. Educating is very different. Okay. Educating is very different. So just to give some concrete things. So first, just like I encourage you to go and find what organization or what law firm is offering pro bono legal services, you should be on a committee that advocates in some way, shape or form legislatively as it pertains to the population you work with. So I'm a part of the Coalition to Protect Maryland's Children in Maryland. And it's a coalition of different organizations. It's just that, Coalition to Protect Maryland's Children. So if there's any legislation that's coming up or being introduced or being suggested that's going to impact children, then, as a collective, as a coalition, we get to weigh in on that. And we get to write testimony or show up in Annapolis, when they're having bill hearings, and can testify on certain bills. So make sure that if you don't feel comfortable with, okay, well, how do I, as an individual, with a certain organization or just as an individual in general, I want to get involved and learn more about my elected officials and find a coalition or a group that's focusing on or cares about the issues or the population that you're working with. So that way you can take a look and see how they interact. They already know who all of the legislators are, especially that are in your community or in your location, right? So they know who cares about certain things. So, and they also have relationships already with the staffers and with, so when it comes time for as a group, when it's like, okay, we're going to go visit this elected official about this certain thing, or we saw this bill is being proposed and we're not sure, they sponsored this bill and then they're introducing this bill and we need to educate them a little bit more about the repercussions or the consequences of this bill. We need to go visit them. Well, being a part of a coalition and going collectively, we know with anything, right? When you go in as a team, as a group, you have more influence over what, or you're taken more seriously as well. So, but it also gives you an opportunity to look at, well, how is testimony drafted? Because sometimes they'll reach out to the group and say, well, who wants to write, here are all the bills that are coming up in legislative session. And this is what I think, or not I, because it's a collective thing, but here are all the bills coming up. How do you want the coalition or the group to vote on these different things? And people have an opportunity to give your vote on whether you think they should act on this bill, whether they should, either as a group you should approve it or whether you should discourage it. Like, you get to have that conversation. And then if it's something where the group or the coalition feels like they should draft a testimony so that the elected officials can see that this is a group of nonprofit organizations or organizations in the community that are coming together under a common voice, right? And they see that, and then you'll be able to see, well, how is that drafted, right? Because there's templates for everything. What does that process look like? So I would strongly encourage you to make sure that that you are looking for a coalition or a group or work group that in your community that is very well versed in the legislative issues, that is very very well connected to the elected officials in your community, who knows who is who, so that you can go collectively on certain things. And once you start to build up your own relationships, or even, reaching out, and it's the same thing that I tell you all before as it pertains to building a team, or making sure that you're about impact, and you're at the table. When meetings are happening and people are consistently seeing you show up, then that increases your chances of when you want to reach out to them individually, they've already seen you. They've already heard of your name in the community. So when you reach out to their staff, or you reach out, to their administrative office and say, hey, I want to get on so-and-so's calendar, right? That when they see your name, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I know him or her. Rings a bell. Okay, yeah, they've really been active around certain issues. And yes, yeah, I want to meet with that person. Or, not to say that if you reach out and you don't have a connection that you won't get a meeting, but y'all know how this thing works. You have to make sure that you are being seen and having impact So not just seen to be seen, but y'all know how I feel about that. But you are at the table, you are consistently showing up at events that not only elected officials, but just other influencers in the community they are at, that you make it a point to even mention or have, say something to them or have some sort of conversation at some level with them, plant some sort of seed, right? If there's an opportunity to address everyone at this certain meeting, that you stand up and you say something. Or, if someone's like, oh, well, who else needs to be at the table? Anyone have any thoughts? You make sure you stand up and you give your thoughts, because the more you do that, the more people will associate you with being present. And when it's time for you to reach out and get that meeting, then you'll be able to get that meeting. Hey, Ella. But she said, peace and love, everybody. Be blessed. You too. Welcome. You say, hey, how do you get the words to show up on the screen? I just have to click it. I'm in StreamYard. Look at technology, these platforms that we have, right? And my mommy Kins is on. Hey, thanks for joining. Who else joined us? Y'all know I'm just giving my little thoughts about strategy, because that's we're talking about this work that we're doing. You have to be thoughtful. I know, strategy, the word strategy, there's issues with the word strategy, but you know what I mean. You have to be mindful and intentional about what you're doing. Right. So, okay, Ella, so I'll reach out to you about the templates, because if you're not a member of the hashtag nonprofit no filter membership, then you don't have access to the templates. If you are a member, then you go through the member portal, which is on the website, enter in your sign-in information, and you'll get access to the templates. If you don't want to become a member and you just want the templates, you can go to my website, shalitaoneal.com. And we're talking about the nonprofit template haven, y'all, with the 60 plus templates on different things, whether it's job descriptions, proposals, you name it. You can go to the website, shalitaoneal.com, and go under shop and just get access to the templates for $37. So it's just one of those two things. So Janet, good afternoon, Janet. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. Yeah, we have you look, Mom, did you see what Ella said about me? Thank you. I'll be trying, y'all. But we have Judge Cathy Serrette that's going to be joining us at 12:30 to just talk a little bit more about. She has done extensive work in Prince George's County in the family court division around just keeping families together. And one of the ways that I met her, and I'll say it again when she comes on too, is I serve on a committee called the Bridge to Yes Drop-In Center committee in Prince George's County, and it has the purpose of trying to create a drop-in center for young adults who have aged out of foster care. So she co-chairs that committee, and so I've been able to sit on that committee with her and interact with a bunch of other amazing people in Prince George's County who, even if they may not be working with foster youth specifically, they are providing services to foster youth. So I'm excited for her to come on and talk more about what she does and why she does it and how she does it. And then from her perspective of being an elected official, like, how do you get in contact with her? How is the best way to engage? Because I can give you my feedback around what I've done as a grassroots organization, as a nonprofit leader, but having that perspective from her is going to be super important. So when she comes on, I'll pop her on in here. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, put it in the comments. Y'all know how this is informal. I know I got got all the nice logos and everything, but y'all know it's informal. So if there's something else that you want to talk about as well, that's pressing, that's on your mind, and you want to put it out there, we'll talk about it. Y'all know this is really, your time to get the support that you need. And so I see that in the green room, we have Judge Cathy Serrette, and I'm gonna bring her on. Y'all ready? Any questions before we bring her on? Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and hey, Judge Serrette, how you doing?
Good, Shalita. It's so good to see you. I
Good
have
to see
missed you over
you.
COVID.
Listen, I've missed you too, but we're gonna have to find our way back. Remember, we said we're going to have to safely, coming on back out, trying to figure out what it looks like. But yes, thank you. I know you're super busy too. So the fact that you made time to come on and talk to us really means a lot to me.
For you, always.
Oh, see, everybody making me blush today. Y'all just gonna make me. But so I let everybody know before you came on our topic today. We're talking about partnering with policymakers and elected officials on supporting and strengthening families. And you have done a lot of that in your career and really made a difference and making a difference in the community. So I want people to know more, though, about. I'm gonna read your receipts, okay? This bio here, because I want people to know who is on right now, who they're talking to. So Judge Cathy Serrette is deeply committed to the children, families, and residents of Prince George's County and has worked diligently throughout her career for equity and justice for all. She is she's a member of a lot of committees. So a member of the Committee on Equal Justice, which is working to dismantle discriminatory behaviors in all aspects of the judiciary's function. Y'all know how I feel about that. She also serves on the Court of Appeals Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services. I was just telling you all about seeking out pro bono legal services. And she strives to secure legal services for all those without resources to protect their rights, to expunge criminal records, secure housing, protect children, and more. She is a commissioner on Maryland's Access to Justice Commission and vice chair of the I got to learn how to say that right, Judicial Conference Domestic Law Committee, where she co-chairs the Special Status Work Group focusing on protecting immigrant children in our courts. In Prince George's County, Judge Serrette heads Model Court, fostering systemic improvements for abused and neglected children in the court system. Y'all know that's my heart. And co-chairs the Bridge to Yes Committee, which is established to create a housing complex and wraparound service center for young adults aging out of the foster care system. And I mentioned that before she came on, that's how I've been able to get to know her better. And she's chaired the task force to establish the Prince George's County Family Justice Center for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and elder abuse, and is the Prince George's County chair of the Maryland Interfaith Domestic Violence Coalition. She has years and years and years of experience. She has gotten a number of awards, as you can see why and how. So I am honored to present to you Judge Cathy Serrette. Why don't you tell us more about why you decided to become or to study law? What made you want to become a judge and then to really work with families in the way that you have over the years?
So I went to law school way back when to work for civil rights and human rights, and in particular, the well being of children and families. When I was still in law school, I worked for Children's Defense Fund, where I worked on a number of different projects, including we were working on a lawsuit to challenge, it was a class action lawsuit to challenge racially discriminatory school suspensions and expulsions, as well as legislative work to make sure that children who had disabilities were assured a free, appropriate public education, because back then kids were just excluded. They were just kept out of schools. And when I finished law school, I went to Advocates for Children, where
Yeah.
I continued
Wow.
to represent children, children who were being excluded from school, and again, children with disabilities, um, whose disabilities weren't being taken into account and they weren't getting the appropriate education that they needed. And I continued to represent children and families in private practice. And then when I got on the bench, I've been really fortunate to be able to do a lot of systemic work for children and families. I coordinated the family division for 8 years. And when I was doing that, that's when I recognized that a huge problem in Prince George's County was that we had more protective order filings than any other county or city, including Baltimore, in the state for domestic violence. So that's when I looked around at different models and found the Family Justice Center model, which was the best model that I saw out there, and took it to our administrative judge, Judge Adams, who was incredibly supportive. And we created this task force with all kinds of community members. And I think that's key to what we're doing today, is talking about how important the community involvement is, because in order to realize any of these collective visions, to address concerns we have in the community, we really need all of us there. And we were able to do that. So we went from just an amazing idea to what is now an amazing center, that does what we hoped it would do. And we took a model that was initially created for just domestic violence, and we expanded it. And we said we were going to use it for human trafficking. We've brought in organizations that deal with kids who are being humanly trafficked. We looked at issues of elder abuse. We looked at issues of sexual assault, and we expanded it so that we can serve all of these groups of people who needed the kind of wraparound services we could bring. So I've just been fortunate. When I finished my term, I'm coordinating judge. I was fortunate enough to become the model court judge. And fortunate enough to meet you, Shalita, because that's when a lot of the work started around that I was doing around the systemic improvement of kids who are in foster care system. Our Bridge from Yes program that hopes to do these wraparound services for kids aging out of foster care. So I have been blessed to be able to work on issues both on an individual basis, where I could do my Senate cases and have families come in front of me and hopefully marshal the kind of resources we need for healthy families, and then look at systemic issues as well. So
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you for that work, because it is indeed important work, and we have a long way to go, but we've come so far, and so as you're seeing, and when you said SENA, so for those of you who don't know what SENA stands for, it's Child in Need of Assistance, and that's typically what they refer to foster youth or potential foster youth that are coming in that might be removed from their home and placed into foster care. Judge Serrette, what are some of the issues or the commonalities that you see in the families and the children that are coming before you, like that really speak to the deep-rooted issues in our communities?
There are lots of them, unfortunately. Poverty is a big one. That's pretty consistent across the board. There's a lot of poverty issues, untreated mental health issues, disabling health issues where children have significant health issues that parents are unable to deal with, given healthcare issues that we have, unmet educational needs, drug addictions, all kinds of community issues for which there have been insufficient resources.
Yeah. And do you feel or have seen too that those issues, they're very deep rooted, but at the same time, like when we're talking, especially in the climate that we're in now, when we're talking about racial injustice and inequality and all of these things that have been going on in the community that have been the root to a lot of what we see today, like how are you seeing people starting to address and being able to say it? Because some people are like, we don't say race, we don't say racial inequities, but now I'm starting to see, that more often. But what role do you believe that plays, and how does that manifest, like in the issues we have?
I think it manifests in every issue we have. I think it permeates every issue we have. So I think when you look at schools and you look at resources that are going into schools, you'll see a racial discrepancy. I think if you look at the child welfare system and you look at what children are in the foster care system and what kids are removed from their parents and what kids aren't removed, you will find racial disparities. When you look at the juvenile delinquency system, you will see racial disparities. And you look at mental health, and needless to say, during COVID, health disparities.
Mm-hmm.
It permeates everything that occurs in our community,
Yeah.
and clearly needs to be addressed at every single level of the community in the court system, but not just the court system, at
Right.
every level of the
Everywhere.
community. Yeah,
Everywhere. And what
yeah.
does that look like in the court system?
So
Like
in the
how would that?
court system, yeah, in the court system, um, there is, I mean, how could anybody right now not be cognizant of what is going on, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we've been working a long time, as you know, looking at disparities in the foster care system and looking at those kind of issues, and what can we do
Mhm.
to change that paradigm that we've been seeing. Now, in the context of the current climate, there is the statewide Equal Justice Committee. And the Equal
Mhm.
Justice Committee is looking at discrimination and discriminatory practices in every aspect of the judiciary. So
Mhm.
I've been fortunate enough to be appointed to that committee. And the subcommittee that I'm going to be sitting on is sentencing committee,
Mhm.
just looking at
That's
the whole issue of mass incarceration and sentencing disparities and issues such as that. But
Mhm.
that committee will incorporate community members and advocates and nonprofits because certainly from the judiciary's standpoint, certain issues are really clear, but no particular um, segment of the community alone can either address or even identify
No.
all of what needs to be done.
Right, right. And so you said having the community and nonprofits and other people, from different sectors come together around this is super important. A lot of the nonprofit visionaries that I work with, they may not know even where to start. How do they even get invited to a committee or know about a committee that maybe they could sit on?
Okay, so if you're talking about the Equal Justice Committee, and then I'll talk about other committees, right? So if you were
Mhm.
talking about the Equal Justice Committee,
Okay.
that came out of the Court of Appeals, the head of the court, the whole court system statewide, Judge Barbera. And she
Okay.
appointed Judge Greg Wells as the chair of the committee. And then
Mhm.
the committee got together and looked at different issues: access to justice, sentencing, education, et cetera, et cetera. And these committees are all being formed. And so
Mhm.
you can go on the website of the Maryland Judiciary and look at the Equal Justice and let them know if that's something that you want to be, if you want to get involved in the subcommittees that are addressing the individual issues that go back to the main committee.
And what's the website for those who are in Maryland that they can?
Just write Maryland Judiciary. It'll come up.
Okay, Maryland Judiciary.
Yeah, Maryland Judiciary. Judiciary. It's actually a phenomenal. Everybody should know about that website because not only does it talk about all of the committees, et cetera, but it also has all kinds of information. It has self-help videos. It has forms that you could use for court. It's a really wonderful website.
Awesome. Get involved in committees. Okay.
But
So
that's the
everybody.
yeah. So that's the Equal Justice Committee. But
Mhm.
again, as you know, every court
Yeah.
has all kinds of committees that are doing all kinds of work. So there's
Mm-hmm.
the committees that you sit on.
Mm-hmm.
Both the Bridge from Yes committee. That we have the Cine and model court meetings once a month,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we look at systemically, are we doing a good job with the community and how can we improve it, and with our people who come in front of us. There's the criminal justice coordinating councils that each county has.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have we have all kinds of problem solving courts. We have the adult drug court, juvenile drug court, veterans court, truancy reduction court.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the district court has a mental health court, and those are all collaborative efforts between the courts and the community and the service providers, serving those folks who are in those problem-solving courts. So there's a lot of different committees that,
Mhm.
so for example, when we started the Bridge from Yes committee,
Mhm.
we reached out to all those who we knew were active advocates on that issue.
Mhm.
And then when those advocates came, like you and others, you might say, well, how about so and so? Have you thought
Mhm.
about them? And I'm like, oh
Mhm.
no, but let's invite them. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's
Yep.
part of how some of that works.
Absolutely. And so, how did you know who the people were that you should initially reach out to?
Well, through so we've been doing these. So model court has existed for some time, and model court, um, the intent of model court is to systemically improve what we're doing with children who are and families who are in the child in need of assistance, i.e., the foster care system or child welfare
Mhm.
system. And a lot of us have just been doing that work, both in the community and courts. You have folks like Magistrate Stewart Jones,
Yeah.
who has a long history of doing this kind of work and a lot of connections. And people have been in conferences together, and we've been at
Mhm.
programs together and educational places. And so we kind of know the folks who have come to us or who we've
Mhm.
met outside of the court. And that's where we started. Um, and then if those folks said, well, what about, we knew there's CASA, for example,
Yep.
the child advocates who do wonderful work and have deep ties in the community. And CASA might say to us, well, have you called so and so? It's like, oh, great,
Mhm.
let's call. And we really want as many voices and as many workers as possible to make things better.
Yes. And that's what I was telling everyone before you came on, the importance of being active. And when there's work groups or convenings or committees, to make sure that they're consistently there, because when you are these worlds and these rooms and these circles are so small. And so, you start to see the people who are actually showing up and the people who are contributing. And then when it comes time for an opportunity, you already know who you want to reach out to. So, a
Right.
lot of grassroots organizations, though, they don't have the team that would allow them to not wear so many different hats. And then,
Yes.
that's another disparity too, is if you don't have the resources or the capacity so that you have people that can take care of certain elements, and then you can go to these meetings and meet people, then you're never at the table. You never get an opportunity to be at the
Right.
table. But it's so important to make sure that they're there so that you can see them and reach out to them. So if someone wanted to, because earlier there was a question and I gave my answer, but I'm like, y'all need to ask Judge Serrette when it comes to lobbying and being a nonprofit organization. So some people have a concern that if they were to try to be a part of committees, or if they were, that then maybe there's some conflict and they could lose their 501c3 status. Is that true, or what have you seen with that?
So it depends. So when you come to the court and work with us, that's not lobbying. We're not a lobbying group.
Mhm.
We just want input and participation, and we want so that's not lobbying. That's
Mhm.
different than going to the legislature and lobbying.
Mhm.
We're not allowed to do that either. But so there are very detailed laws about lobbying, so I'm not going to give legal
Right. I
advice.
told them, I
What
said, get you
I
a
would
nonprofit lawyer,
strongly,
but
yeah, what I seriously, if you're a 501c3 and you have tax issues, talk to an attorney who specializes in nonprofit. And there
Mhm.
are a lot of pro bono attorneys. If you're a startup and you're new and you don't have money to go to a attorney to a firm, well, two things. There are firms who do pro bono work, so you can
Mhm.
do that. But call up like Pro Bono Resource Center,
Mhm.
and they can steer you to folks who are willing to help. There's a group called Civil Justice who does work like that, but there are groups of attorneys who do pro bono work for nonprofits, and there's there are rules that require folks, attorneys, to report the pro bono work that they do every year. And part of the Maryland rules are these. And helping nonprofits is you get credit for your for your pro bono work if you help nonprofits. So call Pro Bono Resource Center. They're the statewide coordinator, basically, for pro bono work, and they can steer you to attorneys who can help you on a pro bono basis if you qualify for pro bono resources. You know, if you're a very wealthy 501c3, you probably won't qualify, but if you're not, you probably will. Yeah.
And so if you're in Maryland, make sure you look that up, Pro Bono Resource Center. If you're not in Maryland, I'm sure that there is a resource that's similar to that in your state as well. You just have to look for it and get that.
So if I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you're not in Maryland, call your local bar association, and they should be able to tell you.
Can see it. So call your local bar association if you're not in Maryland. Get these resources, y'all. You don't have to shy away from certain things because you're afraid, you don't have the information. There's people out there who want to give you the information. So Judge Serrette, so can you tell us, and you have told us a bit about this, previously, but to really, why is it important for these community organizations to really engage policymakers, elected officials, in their work that they're doing, to come and find you and see how they can be supportive?
Because policymakers, judges, etc., have so much influence on what your community looks like. So if you look at the courts and you look at the issues that come to the courts, we get so many pressing issues, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's child abuse and neglect, whether it's juvenile law, criminal law, custody, families breaking apart. They all come to the courts. And we're responsible for, in the best of all worlds, making things better. And the input of the community, the resources of the community are incredibly important. And that's when we get initiatives such as the one we're working on, where we're trying to build housing, because we know that so many of our kids who age out of foster care have no place to go and no supports. And we knew we knew that there were insufficient resources out there for victims of domestic violence and human trafficking. So we built the Family Justice Center. And so part of the thing is for the community input to figure out what it is we can do within the purview for us of the judiciary. But even on a broader perspective, your lawmakers, your legislators, they make the laws. And it's our community. So just really simple things, for example, mass incarceration, huge issue, right? Everybody knows, huge issue. And so one of the big answers to mass incarceration is decarcerate. Pretty obvious issue. Right. Pretty obvious response, right? Decarcerate.
But there's a lot that goes into that.
So exactly. So for example, just one little piece. So in Maryland, you can file for and get a reconsideration hearing at the sentence within 5 years of your sentence. Okay. So if it's 6 years after you were sentenced, or 7 years after you were sentenced, or 10 years after you were sentenced, and you don't pose any threat to the community, you can't go back for a reconsideration because you've gone beyond the 5 years. That's legislative. That's legislative. If the community likes that, good. If the community doesn't like that, it's up to them to change it. Do you know what I mean? So many of these things. It was interesting. I've been to a number of judicial forums lately, and people will ask me questions, and my answer has been often, those are legislative. We don't write the laws. Those are legislative.
And
And
that's
if you
another,
don't like the
if we can
law,
break it out and tell people, because sometimes if we're disenfranchised and we just like give up on just the system altogether, we don't really understand that the legislative branch writes the laws, judiciary enforces, right?
right,
So,
yeah,
and you have an opportunity in your role, even though you don't write the laws, that when you see that the laws are not fair, or you see the consequence of enforcing the laws and how it affects families and children, then you can create what you have done and been a part of different committees along with the community to help change some of the
right.
legislation or reduce the effects of it.
But it's the legislators who are writing the laws. And
Hmm.
so if the community is unhappy with the laws,
Hmm.
they need to deal with their legislators. And we cannot afford to become cynical.
Right.
We
Right.
cannot afford to become cynical, because what
Mhm.
happens impacts everybody.
Yeah.
And those folks who can least afford um, bad things to happen will be most victimized. And so all
Hmm.
of us have a responsibility to make sure, to the extent we can, in whatever role we're in, um, to be involved and to not become cynical.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I hope y'all heard that. I know it gets a little hard out there, and what we've been seeing, but that's why even more so now we really need to get out and exercise our right to vote. Anyone else that has any questions, I want to take a moment to hop on over to the comments and see. I know one. So one. So Serenity. Okay, so she says, "What is being put in place for youth being home during COVID to protect them?" So have you been
um,
seeing anything that's happening with that, Judge Surratt?
I'm not exactly sure in what context that means. Do you mean in school, or
You want to
in what
specify
context?
Serenity? If you're still watching, if you want to let us know, do you mean yeah, what do you mean? Because it could go a couple of different ways. I know when I first read it, my first thing went to foster youth and how has child welfare been responding with COVID. But and in my experience from seeing what's happening, I mean, it's COVID has affected every system, every sector, everyone, and everyone's trying to figure out the best way to move forward. But I believe in Maryland, they're actually trying to stop or extend the young people aging out of foster care, because there were some that at 21
Right,
would age out and then have to go home or go somewhere, right?
right,
And they stopped that so they could stay where they are.
right.
But have you that if we look at it in the context of foster youth, like what have
So,
you
yeah.
heard?
So what I've seen in the context of foster youth, so just so folks who may or may not know, so when a child comes into foster care, um, they have their own attorney, who gets appointed to them, typically from legal aid, but not always.
Mm,
Um, in the best of all worlds, we have a CASA, who is a volunteer who checks on them, um, and then of course they have their social worker.
mhm,
During COVID, um, it's been my experience that a lot of the interaction has been virtual.
mhm,
A lot of the contact between um, foster children and their attorneys, foster children, and have been virtual, telephonic, and virtual.
mhm,
So some of the CASA workers that I've spoken to have told me that they call up on a regular basis to see how the kids are doing. Um, some of the social workers are telling me that they're doing virtual so they can face to face and see the kids.
mhm,
But it's much more it's much more by computers and phones than personally, to protect everybody, to protect the
mhm,
kids, to protect the workers, to protect the casas, etc. And then we have our regular hearings like we've always had. And when that happens, the judge or me or whomever we'll hear from the child, and we'll hear from the CASA, and we'll hear from the attorney, and we'll hear from the county, and figure out what we need to put in place that hasn't been put in place. What kind of services do we need to order that haven't been ordered? So that's how it's been working.
Technology and virtual, trying to go virtual as much as possible. Yeah. And so hopefully, Serenity, that answered your question. If not, you can just put a clarifying question. Anyone else have any questions for Judge Serrette? Any, digging a little bit deeper into what she has shared and the issues that we have seen and she has seen, how they have manifested, in our communities, and things that she is doing to address those issues. Any, okay. Janet has a question. Okay. So Janet says, what are the best outcomes that you've seen as a result of community involvement?
I think community involvement makes everything better, because there's more voices, there's more diversity, there's more input. So, for example, when we started the Family Justice Center, the model we had was the model for domestic violence. And then we it's like, what are the issues you think perhaps it should be addressing that aren't being addressed in the community? And that's when we decided as a group, and all different kinds, well, human trafficking, there really isn't being addressed well enough. What are we doing with these? I see kids. I had a case where I was asked to close the case. And I said, no, because I'm really worried that this child is being trafficked. And the child's mother looked at me and she said, oh, she is. And I was like, I'm not kidding. And so I talked to the child, and so I was able to have them walk right over to the Family Justice Center. And we have Courtney's Place over there, Courtney's Place. And they, the founder of Courtney's Place was a former foster child who had been trafficked. And her organization is extraordinary. They go out on the streets at night and look for kids who've been trafficked. But we were able to get this child with the services from Courtney's Place at the Family Justice Center. That wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the community collaboration. Even the way that it works, the way that the Family Justice Center works is we have Courtney's house there. We have the Women's Law Center there to deal with issues. We have community legal services there to deal with legal issues. We have healthcare issues there and counseling. And so the wraparound services of the community and the input of the community said, well, we really need this too there. And it's like, you're right, we do. It makes all the difference in the world.
And it also goes to like why those who are watching and they have their nonprofits, or even if they're thinking about starting a nonprofit and they already know there's a need, how important it is that they follow through with that. And that they are connected, because they may have a service or a resource that could really change somebody's life.
Right. Really.
Yep. So that's the outcome, Janet. Solutions, right? Anybody else have any other questions? Miss Marva said, sorry. I'm like, it's okay, Miss Marva. Okay. Well, and we were talking too about the importance when we talk about the difference. Oh, Judge Serrette, my son wanted to say hi to you so bad. And I typically tell him, no, he can't come on here. But everybody, this is my son, Amani. He wants to come on.
Amani. I was talking about you, Amani, last night to my son.
Look at him.
Look at you.
He said, I want to talk to her. I want to say hi to your viewers. I want to So I said, okay, mommy let you do it. All right. Bye. He's my why, y'all. We talk about the work that I do and the the why this really means so much to me when I'm helping nonprofit visionaries is because I want to help shape a world that he's going to grow up in, and give him all the opportunity that maybe I never had coming up in foster care, but that he can change and the world and generations after him. So he's my little light. But y'all, so thank y'all for for letting him come on here. But yeah, November 3rd, y'all need to get out and vote, because also, Judge Serrette, you are up for re-election, right? There's six, there's actually six seats. Seven, no,
There's
six seats.
there's 5 seats and 6 candidates.
You know what? I'm not even worried about you. I'm not. I know. Listen, I know when you're gonna be. I'm voting for you. So
Thank
for
you
those
very
who
much.
are in this county, definitely she should be one of the people that one of the judges that you vote in and keep here, because as you can see, I'm not. I don't. I like when people bring their authentic selves and their heart to the work that they're doing and are really invested in the community. And Judge Serrette, I can say that about you. I'm so honored to know you. I'm so honored to work alongside of you. I'm so honored to learn from you. And that's another thing that I also tell our nonprofit visionaries. I might be newer coming on the scene, trying to do a little something, but you've been here for a minute doing this work. And I would be remiss if I didn't learn from you, because, that's where our strength is when we come together.
And let me say the same for you. So I have learned a lot from you, and I find it to be such an honor to work with you. And I'm so proud of you and everything you're doing. And
Oh,
I
thank
just
you.
I just love to watch your work, and I think you're extraordinary.
Thanks, Judge Serrette. That means a lot. I'm honored. So if people want to get in contact with you, how should they do that? And I can can they email? Should they go to a website? Like what, especially for those who are in Prince George's County and, you just be checking boxes. You don't know who, when it comes, you need to know.
Yeah, so let me tell you kind of there's a whole bunch of different ways to get in touch. And then
Okay.
let me tell you what I can and can't do.
Okay.
So you can go to Judge Cathy Serrette on Facebook, and
Okay.
you can go to Linktree with Judge Cathy Serrette. You can also go to the committee to elect the sitting judges, which are the judges who have experience in the and in our community. So you can go there as well. It has my bio. It has Judge Curry. It has Judge Kelsey, and so you can go there as well. My email for the campaign is judgecathyserrette@gmail.com. What I can't do is I'm not allowed to answer any legal questions because I can't give legal advice as a judge. I'm prohibited from doing that. And the other
Okay.
thing, if you have a case in front of me, I'm never allowed to talk to one side of a case without the other side being there. So,
And did I,
yeah,
so when we the Gmail, so Judge Cathy Serrette, all one word at Gmail.
at gmail.com. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to share this so everyone can
I should
see this.
double check it to make sure I'm right because I don't ever write it.
And if
Since
you
I know my
know,
regular one.
and my viewers, if you wanted clarification, you can just reach out to me. If you tried one of these and it doesn't for whatever reason, but Facebook, Judge Cathy Serrette.
There's a
Is
dot
that
between, it's judge.cathy.serrette@gmail.com.
okay? Let me fix that. I'm glad you checked.
Me too. Right, but you
Okay.
check the link tree. The link tree for me has all my, I can actually tell you what that is. And then we have a link tree
Okay.
for the committee as well. The link tree,
Three.
let
Okay.
me see, is, you can tell I could, let me see. Ta-da, if I had my computer here, let me see.
Add it up too. So maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, when we switch off, I think my camera goes off. So I'm gonna. Y'all hold tight because y'all need to get her information so that you can look her up. And if you're in Prince George's County, okay, then you need to definitely vote for Judge Cathy Serrette because yeah, she needs to be one of your votes for one of those 5 spots. Okay. And then while we're waiting, because I think she switched off to get the link so that you can reach out to her. But y'all know as well, November 7th, we're having the Visionaries of Color, the second virtual Visionaries of Color nonprofit summit. So if you want to learn more from different people, y'all know I love bringing people together, our nonprofit elders, to talk more about the historical context of growing a successful nonprofit organization, also through the lens of, what's going on racially in our communities. Like you need to hop on that, be a part of that. But then also we're going to have some panels that talk about the technical side of growing a successful nonprofit organization too. So, if you came to the first one, we got the arts, we got music, we got art, we got storytelling, African storytelling, we had poetry, we had all kinds of stuff because we were really paying homage to our ancestors and looking at healing on an individual and a community context. So you need to make sure that you go to the vocsummit.com and get your ticket for November 7th, and make sure you tell your board members, you tell other nonprofit visionaries of color who want to come to a safe space and really talk about what's going on in our communities and how we're going to address it through a racial equity lens. Okay, so I was like, we lost you. Where'd you go? Did you get the link?
Yeah, so the link tree is linktr.ee and then / Judge Cathy Serrette.
What you said? I'm sorry. Start over from. I didn't catch the first.
Yeah, linktr.ee and then / Judge Cathy Serrette. And then the campaign website in general is PGC Judges for the full slate.
PGC Judges.
Judges, yeah.
All right, y'all. I'm about to put it up here. No, it just deleted everything I just put in here.
Did it really?
It was link.tre. TRE / Judge Cathy Serrette. Okay. And then you said the campaign website.
Yeah. The campaign for so I'm also on Facebook on Judge Cathy Serrette. Mm-hmm. And I think Instagram too. My son helped me with that. And then the sitting judges website is just PGC Judges.
Okay.
Yeah.
So PGC Judges. And then the link tree. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that up there. Y'all have all the information that you need to go learn more about Judge Serrette and the work that she's done in the community. And I just want to thank you again for coming on. And yeah, I'll make sure you get the recording and everything like that.
Oh,
but y'all make
sure
you reach out.
The link tree should have an extra E. It's a link.
Okay.
Yeah. It's linktr.ee.
Oh, tr.ee.
Yeah.
Okay. Boom, like that. Link tr.ee. Whew! Y'all, I did it. I was a little slow today, but I did it. Thanks for joining us, Judge Serrette.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. And I'll definitely have you back on again. And for everybody else that's watching, next week, we're going to take a little break. So we won't be back next week, but we'll be back with the hashtag nonprofit no filter on October 20th at 12 p.m. Eastern. And I'll let you know who the special guest will be before then. But if you need one-on-one support, listen, I want y'all to know that you can go on to my website. Let me ShalitaO'Neal.com. If you're needing coaching, I say this all the time. You don't have to do this alone. I can come in and help you out with that. So make sure you go on the website and get some support. But until next time, we're going to be real, have fun, and get results. Love y'all. See you later.
Love you, sweetheart. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.